Okay, so go ahead and load up Scratch and load your side scroll again. Okay, now I remember to start the video. So what we want to do is we want to move right and left. So when we move, we want to have everything else move, but not the dinosaur. The dinosaur is going to stay put. So when we want to move right, everything else has to move left. So what we're going to do is we're going to broadcast. So the dinosaur controls everything, but he can't move everything. So we're going to use broadcast. So under events, click on events and then uh, broadcast message one. We're going to pull message one in there. And what we want to move is we're going to broadcast where our dinosaur is moving. So we're going to say, our new message is going to be right. Hit OK. So we're going to broadcast right. So every time we broadcast right, we want our ground. I've got it set as ground one. So go to your ground one. We want ground one to listen for that broadcast. So we have to tie it to an event. So they have when I receive. So grab the when I receive. Oh, I don't have the increased size. Can everyone see that okay? Okay. It'll default to right. So our sprite, our dinosaur says right. Our ground receives right. And then we're going to do some motion. We're going to say, let's see if there's a better way to do this. Now let's do this then. We're going to go to XY. And right now we got our positions here. Our negative, or our 25 and our negative 105. Yours might be slightly different if you're not using my file. So, okay, so we're going to want to change what's the right and left. Moving right and left, what does that go on, the x-axis or the y-axis? X. So we're going to want to change the x-axis. But we want to keep track of it and we want to be able to reset everything. So we're going to have to set some global variables here. So let's go to events. Am I going? Yes, good. Let's go to events. Let's grab the when flag clicked event. And let's set some variables. Let's make some variables. So let's go to variables and make a variable. We want it for this sprite only because we're only controlling this sprite. We want the X and Y for this sprite. We're going to name this one position X. Okay. So now I got my position X variable. Why is gravity under here? I'm going to get rid of, okay. Then I want to create another variable, position Y. So POSY, posy. Oops, I made that one for all sprites. What happens if you make one wrong? So you see how ground position X has ground one in front of it? That means it's tied to this sprite. Position Y doesn't, so it's not tied to that sprite. So what we can do is we can come over here, we can right click and we can delete the variable and recreate it. So I want for this sprite only and position Y. You would have problems probably because I think I have a position X and position Y for my dinosaur already, so that would cause problems with it. So you should see both variables over here, position X, position Y, right? Okay. If you don't want to see something up here, you can turn it off. So over here, I don't want to see gravity right now. We're kind of done with gravity. So I'm going to uncheck gravity and boop, it's gone. I won't need my position Y for my ground here because I'm only going to move right and left. So I'm going, but we may need it later. That's why I created it. So I'm going to uncheck that so I can't see that anymore. And you can drag these around if you want to make that fit a little better. Okay, so now we got to set these. So let's grab our set. Mine says set gravity to 0. We got to set our position Y and our position X. So set position X to, now down here it should have loaded what your X and Y is in your go-to. Otherwise, you can look over here and see what your X and Y are. So my position X is 25. So I'm going to set my position X to 25. Then I'm going to grab another set gravity 0. I'm going to set my position Y to negative 105 because that's what it is in my thing. Okay. Everyone got that? So we got our global variables. So Then what we want to do is we want to replace our X and our Y and our go-to with those variables. So go grab your position X variable, drag it in there, grab your position Y variable, drag it in there, just like that. Okay. Now what happens? So if I start it, he falls down. Now if I hit my D, nothing happens because I'm just going to the same exact position. Nothing's changing. I wonder if I'm doing my broadcast. I wonder if here, let's go over here. Oh, let's see. Where'd it go? What happened to my broadcast? It's gone. Here, let's do this. Minus. No, that's when space pressed, up arrow. That's weird. I never had that happen before. My broadcast went away. Well, let's create my broadcast again. I could have, no, it's right there. No. I put it in the wrong place. Okay. That's what happened when I restarted the video. Okay, so if you followed me, you guys are correct. If you followed me, you put your broadcast right on your down arrow. We need a new event to call this. So we're going to move right with the D, left with the A key. So I want my events, and I'm going to put in, grab my when space clicked, and I'm going to change that to D. And then I'm going to do my broadcast right. So I'm going to stop and restart. Now if I hit my D, you'll see that turns yellow for a second. Okay, now if I go to my other sprite and I hit my D, you see that turns yellow for a second. It receives that right. So on my dinosaur, it says broadcast right. So it says right. It broadcasts all the sprites. And this sprite, my ground, says, oh, when I receive right, do something. Okay, right now it won't do anything because it'll just set X and Y position exactly what we had it before. So what do we have to do in order to get it to move now? Any ideas? So every time I hit my D, what am I going to want to do? Before I do my move, I'm going to want to change my X position. So let's go back to our variables. And we're going to change X. We're going to change, it says gravity. We're going to change our X position. And we're going to change it by 5. Now I want it to go left. So which direction am I going to, what am I going to have to use? Positive or -5 to make my platform move left? -5. We're going to go minus on the X direction. So minus. So I'm going to change that by -5. Okay. So now if I stop it and restart and I hit my D key, hey, look at that. We got movement. Hey, until, now what's kind of funny is my dinosaur didn't fall, but we'll deal with that in a second. Because it should no longer be touching. Now if I jump, it should go, ah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Can you please help me? Sure. When I'm pressing D. Okay, we're going to add one more bit of code so we can test and troubleshoot. So when I click my flag, my dinosaur goes back, but he falls away from the ground. And notice he's not even standing on the ground yet. We'll deal with that here in a second. But okay, so when I set my global variables, I also want to move my ground to that position. So under my when flag clicked on my ground 1 where I set my X position and my Y position, I want to then move to that position. So go to motion and do your go to, and then grab your variables for position X and position Y. Drop them in there. And now when you hit the flag, it should reset your ground. Okay. Okay, so we've got that working. So if we hit our D's, it will move to the right. Now currently our dinosaur doesn't fall when it gets past there. We're going to deal with that in a little bit. But let's get our movement to the left by hitting the A key. So we're going to want to, what's the first thing we need to do in order to get it to move the other direction? Just do the opposite. Do the opposite. So yep, we got to go back to our dinosaur. And we have when our D key pressed. So now, and we broadcast right. So now we're going to want to go back to our events and grab our when space key pressed and change it to A when our A key pressed. And we're going to do another broadcast. This time we're going to do a new message. We're going to broadcast left. Okay. So now we got our broadcast. Oh, that's right. I don't.
Well, I got it running now.
Hey, cool. Well, let me know. I can give you what we got so far.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the broadcast. We're going to broadcast left. So if I hit my stop and my refresh, we're on dinosaur and when A key press. So if I hit my A key, you see that it lights up. So we're broadcasting. Now we need to receive. So we're going to go to our ground. And we got when I receive right. Let's just copy that. Let's duplicate that. Right click and duplicate. Now I have two when I receive rights. I want to change my right to my left. So when I receive left. And then the other thing we have to do is change that -5 to +5. And now, if we refresh,
Oh, where are those?
A and D, we'll move you right and left.
They're over here.
Yep, they're in ground.
Yeah, I have that.
Okay, so we've got that working. We got our right and our left. Oops. There we go. Ah, okay, so I got my right and my left. And now I have to deal with him not landing on the platform. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to figure out where he's going to fall past the platform. So now we have to do something a little different. We're interacting sprite to sprite, but eventually we want to interact sprite to all the other sprites. So we have to deal with all the sprites. So we're going to have to know where this sprite exists on the X and Y and when it comes into play with our dinosaur. So right now, if we look back at our dinosaur code, if we go to our gravity, here, let me stop it. Okay, so we got if touching ground. Okay, if it's touching that sprite, then it switches and it sets its gravity. Else, we've got it, it's continuing to fall, but we have a little if statement in here. Oops. This if statement right here is if it's going to be above the platform or not is what we got to figure out. Right now we just say we assume he's above the platform. So if his position when he falls, if I take this if out of here, let me take it out real quick, put my glide back in, move that out of the way. So if I take that if out of there and I refresh, he falls through the platform. That was our thing. It can pop up and eventually he's out of the platform. But because he's falling fast enough, he's accelerating, that he will go into the platform. If I go here and oops, let's just get right to the near the top. There we go. Okay, if I go here and I crank up his jump height, now his jump height's -135. He goes up really fast. Now when he comes down, he may go so fast he might go right through the platform and actually never stop. Let's see what happens. He's got to be coming down soon. There he goes. Yep. So right through the platform because he's accelerating so fast, his glide to position sometimes lands in the platform. Sometimes it lands through the platform if it goes too far. So we've got to deal with that. So that's why we had this in here. This if y position is less than -55, then he won't. It'll say, oh, I'm going to land in the platform. So it says, nope, I'll just glide. That's why he slows down at the end there a little bit. You see him, slows, a little soft landing. So we added that. So now we have to deal with that. We have to deal with the fact that he's sometimes going to be, we could leave this in here if our platform were always the ground, it was all the way across and he can never fall off the ground. But we don't want that to happen. We want him to fall through. So now we have to deal with this only occurring when he's over the platform. So we got to figure out when he's over the platform and when that should occur. So does that make your head explode yet? So what we want to do is we want to figure out our position of our platform and when it's going to be he won't be over it and when he's not. So let's start there. Let's start when where our platform position is. So let's go ahead and go to our ground. So I got my ground here. And now I'm just going to, it's still active. Okay. So I'm going to move my ground until he's at a point where I don't want him to land on the platform anymore. So right here, right there, he's no longer landing on the platform, right? Platform's missed him. So my X here is -70. I should record that here. Okay, people online can't see the board, but what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, our ground's here. If here's our dinosaur, there's his tail. Rah. Okay. If the platform is X is -70, he will not be touching the platform. He should fall down. Let's figure out the other one. So then, if we go the other way, if I hit my D key, oops, sorry, A key, until I want him not to touch. I don't care if it hits his head. I don't know if that maybe will be touching. So we're going to make it so he entirely misses. So here my X is 110, right? 110 that way, -70 the other way. Yep.
Maybe we should do -15 or 115.
Just a second. So if we do 110, X equals 110. So we only want him to interact with the platform when it's between -70 and 110. Yeah.
Yeah, but what about when you have, like when the sides roll, then there's going to be different shapes, right?
Right. So the question is, what happens when we have different shapes? So we're going to interact differently with those different shapes. Right now, we're just dealing with this one. We want to get the basics of jumping, landing, and what happens when I miss the platform. So, okay. So we want to know when the platform is under the dinosaur, right? So let's do this. Let's set up a broadcast that this sprite will broadcast when it's under the dinosaur. So let's go to our when flag clicked. And we want to check forever if this thing is under the dinosaur, right? So I'm going to grab a forever loop. Go down to your loops and grab a forever loop. We're going to do this forever. The more forever loops we add, the more memory intensive it'll get. It may slow down, cause lagginess, but we're not there yet. Okay, so forever I want to check if I'm under the dinosaur. So let's go to grab another if, then else. I'm going to grab an if, then else statement, put inside my forever loop. So forever, I'm going to check if, then else. Then I want a condition here. So I'm going to go to my operators. And first condition I want to check is, am I greater than -70? So I'm going to grab I'm going to grab oh, just a second. Yeah, I'm in the right place. I'm going to go to my variables and grab my X position. If my X position is greater than -70. Won't let you grab the Okay, so we know when it's greater than -70. We also want to know when it's less than 110, because 110 is the other side. So let's grab a less than operator right there. Here, I'm going to scroll up a little bit. I'm going to go to my variables. I'm going to grab my X position. Now I want to know that it's less than 110. So I want to know that it's greater than -70 and less than 110. So now we got another operator. You got your AND operator down here. I'm going to do my and I want it to be X position greater than -70 and, oops, X position less than 110. So it's in between those two.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then if I drag that in there, it's going to make it really long. Let's do a little house cleaning. There we go. So you've got if it's between those, then.
A little bit behind.
That's right. I'm going to call it right now. Give you some time to play, and we'll take over from here next week.